sure that every single person has a goal or goals that they want to achieve in their life. Now, these goals may be short-term or long-term, personal or professional, or so on. But having achieved these goals gives one immense joy and satisfaction. However, with the pandemic, the nature of our goals has changed a bit, and proper recognition and planning of goals is needed. So, I present to you YouVak's workshop on goals done right. And our speaker for today is the very talented, very knowledgeable, and the founder of Coached by Erica, life and transformational coach Erica Souza. Having done her BA in psychology and sociology from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, she is a certified professional coactive coach in addition to being a certified image consultant. So, today she is going to take a deep dive in the entire process of goal setting. So, over to you, ma'am.
Hi. You should consider watching this video if any of the following hold true for you. You're working on a goal or something important and you keep starting and stopping throughout. Or you start something and you have a lot of motivation and then it kind of has started to fizzle. Or you've been looking for a really clean break, like a fresh start. And you find that in the current circumstances, there are no fresh starts happening for you. Now, before I tell you that I'm Erica and that I'm a life and a transformation coach, what is important for me to share is that I'm a human being, just like you. And just like you, I've been through the same global pandemic that you have in the last 18 months. And so I'm going to tell it like it is. We don't really live in the preceding times that we saw before the pandemic. And in many ways, we're living in a state of flux and old rules don't apply. Now, there's an actual term for this. The Washington Post calls it the pandemic flux syndrome. And what it is that if you are really working on something like a goal and you're really putting in a lot of effort and a lot of energy to making something happen, we aren't getting these fresh starts anymore, and the old ways of finding motivation aren't working. So what do we do about this, you may ask? And that's exactly the topic of the workshop that I'm going to do for you today, which is the uniqueness of setting and achieving goals in current times. Now, a little housekeeping, you don't really need to have anything with you other than a pen and a paper and a fresh and open mind. Right? So let's get started. Now, as a life coach, I've worked with a number of people during the pandemic. And what's interesting is that I see two different kinds of people emerging. Right? There's one kind which is really sort of blaming their circumstances, and they're feeling horrible about all the horrible things that have happened to us. But most importantly, they're very content to sort of blame it on other people, blame their stuckness on circumstances. And the truth be told, I don't really see any difference between the way these people were before the pandemic and even now. But there's an interesting, small but important group that I've been paying attention to, and these are clients of mine who have really been thriving. They've been focused, they've been achieving what they want, and they've been, like I said, they've been thriving through the pandemic. And I've been watching them very closely, and today what I want to do is share some of their best practices with you, that if you fall into this category, someone who's determined to make something happen in your life right now, and you've been looking for the answers and you don't know how and where to start, these sort of perspectives might be really helpful for you in your journey. So let's go. All right. Now, the assumption I'm making, if you're still listening to this video, is that you're not just interested in surviving through the next 18 months or 2 years. You're really committed to thriving. And so this whatever I'm going to be discussing is really aimed at somebody who is very committed to wanting to go through the hard work, but at the same time wanting to really live a fulfilled life, right? So if we're assuming that you want to thrive and not just survive, then the first question that I have to ask you okay, is what do you want? Now, before you go, that's a kind of dumb question. What's she asking me that for? Well, think about it for a second. We all sort of know what we don't want. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to be binge eating. I don't want to feel this discomfort. I don't want to feel the fear and the uncertainty. I don't want to feel like failure when I'm achieving something. I get that, right? But if I have to ask you a little deeper question, and I ask this question again, what do you want? Chances are that you'll take a little longer to think about that. That's what I want you to do today. And moreover, your answer is likely to be, like most of the people that I ask this question to, is I just want to be happy. I just want to have some peace of mind. And my question is that what is the action behind that? What are the goals associated with being happy or with thriving? In other words, this may not be that easy to articulate, and there's a reason why. So let me explain the context. All right. Now, for many of us, we've worked really hard in our lives, and we grew up believing what the world told us, that to be happy or to thrive, we should play certain roles and we should want certain things. Fair enough. So look at the way we even describe ourselves. When somebody asks us, who are you? We say, well, I work as, or I'm somebody, I'm married, or I'm single, or this is what I do for a living, or this is when I travel. Now, there's nothing really wrong with this, but then once in a while, something really catastrophic or tumultuous comes along, like the pandemic, and completely blows these definitions apart. And suddenly we're standing with one foot here and one foot there and literally asking ourselves, really, who am I and what do I want? So our brains really hate not knowing this. Our brains really hate this uncertainty. And we want to kind of pick up and go back to exactly where we started before, but we can't. That's the reality, right? So what I want to do with us today is to say that whatever your circumstances are currently, whatever the situation is that you're in, okay, I want us to have this perspective that can we use this as an opportunity to begin with that clean slate and ask ourselves, really, within the current circumstances that of my life, what is it that I really want? Now, to help, okay, up on the screen you'll see something that is going to be a helpful exercise to get you started. And you'll see up on this diagram, I call it the reveal wheel, and I use this with all my clients. It's more or less the significant areas of most of our lives. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at this diagram, and this would be a good time to maybe pause. If you haven't got a pen and paper, pause this video and bring a pen and paper together. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to, if you see the circle, you see several smaller concentric circles there, and you see 1 in the center and 10 at the end. You're going to rate each of these areas of your life in the reveal wheel on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, I'm really unhappy with this part of my life, this area. So if, for example, it may be physical fitness. And 1 will be like, I'm really unhappy, I'm really unsatisfied, I'm completely not fit, and I want to do something about it. And 10 is, I'm really at the top of my game, I'm really satisfied. So you may be anywhere from 1 to 10. So go ahead and rate each of these areas, and you can recreate this reveal wheel on your sheet of paper. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to sort of get the general context and the ideas. Draw a circle and have each of these, wedges in between, and put a dot in more or less the kind of rating that you would have given yourself and your life in the current circumstances. Now, when you've done this, okay, you will want to join the dots. And as you can see in the screen, this is a sample of what somebody else is. This is an example of one of the clients that I worked with. This is the way they join their dots. Now, your inner shape may look completely different from this person's, but this is just an idea to give you of how, once you've rated it in each of the areas, you're going to join these dots and you'll find that there's a new shape, okay, your shape of your life emerging within this outer circle. Okay, now once you've kind of got this shape, I want you to take a step back and hold that sheet of paper in front of you and really look at it. And here are the questions that I want you to contemplate. Okay, now that you've done this, I want you to ask yourself that if this was the wheel, this inner shape that's been created once I rated myself and my areas of satisfaction, if this is the wheel that I'm using to drive my life right now, how bumpy might my ride be? Right? In other words, what's showing up for you with the shape? What are you realizing? What are you recognizing about your life in general? Secondly, I want you to ask yourself, what does this emerging shape say about me and my goals, the goals that I'm currently pursuing? What's the connection that I'm seeing between these areas and the goals that I'm working on? And most importantly, what, from looking at this and looking at this, more holistically, what are the key areas that I really want to work on in my life? Okay. And these don't necessarily have to be the areas with the lowest score, but it just gives you an idea, an indication about where your satisfaction lies and where it doesn't, and what are the areas that you want to choose to work on. Now, why this exercise is really important is that most of us often choose a goal and we work on it in isolation. The most common example I can think of is fitness. So a lot of people start fitness routines, and I know many of us, including myself, who started fitness routines during the last 18 months, and we work on this in a silo, independent of what's going on with the rest of our life, our emotions, our family life, our work, our money, our career. So this reveal wheel gives you a really good perspective about zooming out and looking at your goals from a holistic perspective. Okay, so pause this video if you need to take some time to do that self-reflection, and then come back and we'll continue with the next layer. Okay, the bottom line in this particular exercise is what you will recognize is that when we are going after or trying to achieve certain goals in our life, what we're really going after is a more balanced and a more fulfilled life. And this will give you a clue as to how to get started and how to ask yourself those important questions. All right. So now that we are clear on what we want, okay, there is a step that almost everyone, without exception, skips when we get into taking action on a goal, is identifying what we want and then immediately trying to take various actions to make that happen. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's one important thing that gets missed out, okay? We sort of go around saying that when I achieve that, then I'll be whatever, happy or peaceful or stressless, right? How many times have you said something like, I'll be happy when I get that new job, or I'll be happy when this business takes off, or I'll be happy when I'm in that relationship. Now, the problem with this mindset is it keeps us indefinitely and in an unlimited state of being limited, okay, in our view. It's like we're telling ourselves, I'm really not good enough to have that now, or I'm not eligible to be happy until I've achieved that goal. And this is the worst part, because it's most likely to actually sabotage your goal. So an actual case study that I want to talk to you about is a client of mine, okay, and she was a perfect example of this. I have to have that perfect job in order to do the things, and then I'll be happy, do the things that make me happy, and then I'll have happiness. So she had created this sort of have, then do, then be kind of framework, right? So practically speaking, when she came to me, she was about 2 years out of the workforce. She hadn't worked in a corporate job for 2 years. And she was keen to get back, but she was very clear that she just didn't want any job. She wanted to make a difference this time, and she wanted her dream job. And so I asked her this question. I said, so what will you have when you have that dream job? And she said, without blinking an eye, she said, then I'll be happy. And then I'll get to do all these things. I'll get fit, and I'll be able to go out, and I'll be able to, enjoy my life. Now, there was a big sort of flaw with this mindset, because what I noticed is that she was walking around with this really sort of low self-esteem, almost like showing up at interviews with a state of, desperation. Her self-esteem and her feelings of worth were completely compromised. And as a result, she kept getting rejected, and she kept, going to all sorts of bad interview situations in the wrong kind of environments, and then getting more and more frustrated and disappointed. So we stopped this cycle, and I asked her, to challenge herself and ask herself a very simple question. And the question is one that I want you to ask yourself as well. What is the more significant state or feeling or thing that I will have once I've achieved this goal, whatever your goal is? Okay, I'll repeat the question. What is the more significant feeling or state or thing that I will have in my life once I've achieved this goal? Okay, so when we sort of sat back to the client, when we sort of sat down and I asked her, she said, I'll be really happy and fulfilled. And so I asked her to challenge herself and ask, which I'm asking you now, is who are you when you're happy or fulfilled or at peace or less stressed? Who are you, right? What are the things that you do when you're happy? How do you show up when you're happy? How do you make choices and decisions when you're happy, right? How do you lead your life when you're happy? So she started asking herself all these, and I want you to, again, if you need to pause and reflect, do that right now. And coming back to my client, something really changed. She started really connecting with that happiness. And I challenged her. I said, I want you to do just one thing every day that connects you to that state, that happiness, right? So she started connecting with the kind of people that made her happy. She started connecting with the values that really made her feel fulfilled. She started, even looking for companies who shared the kind of values that she did. And something amazing happened is she changed that have, do, be. I have to have the job to do the stuff that I enjoy, to be happy. She changed it around to being happy and then doing all the things that were in this happiness zone to actually having the amazing job that she wanted. And a happy story, a happy ending to that story is she got that job, and it was her dream job, and it was with people that were really aligned to what she was about, right? So a happy story, but she made that happen for herself, and she flipped this whole perspective of having the goal and then doing the stuff and then being happy to, I'm going to be that person now. I'm going to be that person today, the one that's going to, be at the end of that goal cycle. And that gives me the right kind of mindset to be open to the opportunities and to be open to the energy and the vibe of that whole goal. And then, she got the goal. Okay. It's really critical that you make sure that your actions towards your goal, to be on the right track, you have to be able to protect this intention. So to summarize where we are till now, what do we want? You asked yourself that, what do you want? And now, what is the intention behind this whole process that you are attempting? And how, or what is the one thing that you can do every day to connect with that intention? Okay? All right. So now we're going to move to the next part. of this cycle. And let's face it, most of the things that are really important for us in our lives are long-term goals. Okay, these are things that are massive and they're probably a little difficult for all of us. And what we're going to talk about right now is how do you find the motivation to stay that course, right? What is it that you can find, even in the current circumstances, that can help? So I want you to do this exercise with me. We're going to actually find your goal achieving style. Okay. So imagine for a minute, you can close your eyes if that helps, but feel free. Imagine that you're setting off on this adventure, okay, and it's in an unknown jungle, and you have to kind of tread through this jungle to reach this beautiful grove. And there's a beach there, there's exotic fruit. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now you've landed at the entrance of the jungle and you see that there are 5 different paths that you can take. Now, which one do you take? One may get you there faster, another may be riskier, yet another may give you a really colorful adventure. And keep in mind that you have a limited time limit. Okay, there's a time limit on this. You want to stay alive. You don't want to be eaten up by poisonous snakes along the way. And oh, by the way, I've factored in there's a friend or a colleague or a partner or somebody close to you in your life who's also there in the mix. And together you have to make decisions with them, deal with them, and reach this grove in time. Doesn't that kind of sound like what most really important goals look like in our lives, in real life? Now, I'll bet that if at this point I showed up and told you, I'll tell you the most fastest and efficient way to do that, I bet you'd give me a lot of money. But I'm going to do something even better for you. I'm going to empower you to find your own way through this jungle, okay? And it's going to be fabulous. And think about this in real life. What does that actually mean for us? Having this knowledge or having this empowerment to be able to take the most efficient path or make your way to your goal the right one for you. How much time and money could that save you? Right? A lot. Okay. We're talking about our core values here, by the way. And these have far-reaching consequences, way more than we realize. And I'm going to show you exactly how, with a very practical exercise that we're going to do right now. It'll save you, just to give you the benefits of having this information that you're about to get for yourself. It'll save you a lot of time. Okay. It's going to get you there in your style. Right? Our values are tailor-made to each of us. There's no one person in the world who has the same set of values that you do. They may be similar, but they may mean different things to different people. It's going to help you to prioritize your time. You're going to be better with collaborating with different people because you have to deal with different people when you're achieving a goal, right? So this is all the benefits of what we're going to do in the following exercise, knowing your goal achievement style. In other words, knowing your values. Okay. So I want you to get really comfortable, sit back. If it helps you to relax by closing your eyes, do that. Just listen to my voice. And you're going to spend a couple of minutes. So be ready to pause. I'm going to ask you a series of questions or visualizations. And after each of the questions that I take you to, maybe pause it and reflect on it for a couple of minutes and write down your answer and then go further. All right? Pause, get yourself really comfortable, relax, take a couple of deep breaths in, relax, take them out. And here we go. So I want you to go to a moment in your life when you were truly on top of the world, fully engaged, fully happy, fully alive. What was the most important thing about that moment? Who were you being in that moment? And describe that in one word. So for example, I was being courageous. I was being adventurous. I was free. I had independence. I achieved something. So whatever that word is that's coming for you, when you have this memory for yourself, write that down. That's your value. That's a value. Okay. Next, when was the last time that you got really angry or frustrated? Now, what is important about that moment that you got really angry, okay, think back to the last couple of weeks. What was the important part of you that felt suffocated when you got angry, right? Describe how you felt. Did you feel taken for granted? Did you feel unrecognized? Did you feel unloved? Did you feel disrespected? And then what I want you to do is flip that around. So if the situation could have gone differently, what would the opposite of that feeling have been? What would you have liked? Would you have liked to feel more loved, more honored, more appreciated, more recognized, more respect, right? So whatever is that word coming up for you now, write that down. That's another very important value for you. Now the next one, if 3 of your closest family and friends got together and told me one thing that was really consistent about you. It could be either a compliment or it could be something that's a loving complaint, right? What would that be? So, for example, you're really loyal or caring or organized or in control or non-judgmental or precise. Okay, whatever that is, write that down consistently. Everybody has that one thing. What's yours? That's your value. The last one. What's the most significant decision you took in the last 18 months? Okay. What's the most significant decision you took in the last 18 months? Now describe that in a few sentences about what was important about that decision for you. So, for example, you got into a relationship, and let's say the reason that it was important for you is that this person really respected you or gave you your space or really, loved you. Whatever it was, put those concepts down. And now narrow those down into 1 or 2 key concepts. So, like when you felt that, what did that give you? So when you felt that important decision and the importance of why you took it, what did that give you? So did it give you, for example, a feeling of self-worth, or value, or respect, or connection? Whatever it is, write those concepts down. That's your value. Now, when you write this down, recognize that these words that you've written down are neither positive or negative. That's a mistake that a lot of us make. We think values should be these very positive things. A value is neutral, right? So for example, ambition is neither negative or positive. It's not bad or good if you're ambitious. It's just who you are. And that's what we're trying to get at over here, is because for a goal to really see the course or stand the course of time, you gotta know what these drivers are for you. Okay, they're unique to you. So figure that out. Okay, write those words down and then write just the values on a sheet of paper. Okay, I want you to again hold this paper, in front of you and take a look at it. Take a step back and say, where are these values actually showing up in your life right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being this is not present in my life at all. I'm not showing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not honoring this value. And 10 is it's all the time. It's a part of me. It's in my DNA, right? I want you to really, really ask that question of yourself, because what you'll find is that most of the time, the frustration and your lack of motivation is coming when a value, a core value for you is really getting suffocated, okay? What do you know about yourself and your goals after looking at these values? And most importantly, I would say, look at the goals that you are trying to achieve right now and really ask yourself that question is, what are the values? What are these values of mine that are driving these goals? Okay, so I'll give you an example. This is my goal, okay, one of my goals. And that's to work with 5 amazing women in the age of 35 to 40 who really wish to impact themselves so that they can impact others. Now, I want you to pause the video for a second and try this out as an exercise. Try and guess what my values are. try and guess what my why is for what I do. Okay? Take a stab at it. And what you'd have recognized from that is, for me, my values are really about impact. And more deeper, it's about living my life the way I want to live it, the freedom of having to live life on my own terms. And I want to give that to other women as well, right? So freedom of lifestyle, impact, these are all values that drive me. So the question that I want you to ask yourself is, look at what you're doing in your life right now and seriously find out what's driving this. And here's a little clue. If you cannot find the value that's driving your goal, 90% of the time that goal is going to fizzle out. So it's in your best interest to really sort of be sure and clear about what's driving what you're doing. Stick to that, and every time you feel your motivation waning, that's the time to bring out that value, look at it and say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay? And the beauty of doing this exercise and knowing your values is, circumstances will change, values don't. There'll be pandemics, there'll be other drama in our lives. Your values are not going to change. This is the surefire way of making sure that you don't fall off your goals. Okay, so that brings us to the last part of our workshop today. And you have your goals now. You know what you want. You know the mindset that you want to protect, and you have the motivational values that are driving it. So off you go, you start on your goal, and then you hit a snag, right? And then everything goes boom. So the key word that's been doing the rounds in the last 18 months that I want to talk about today is how to pivot and not quit during an important goal or during the journey towards an important goal. Okay, the best way that I can explain this, how pivoting works, is with using a metaphor of a telescope. Okay, so when you're looking through a telescope and you're following the course of a star, there are three things that are super important to be able to do this. One, where your telescope is pointed. Second is, what is the magnification level that you're using. And the third is the experience of the eye that's actually looking through the lens. Now, if you translate what I just said with this telescope to our goals, what often happens is that when we're working on a goal, we get really close to the everyday action. So we're taking this action, and then when things don't really go according to plan, or they don't show up in the way that we thought they would do that, we tend to consider this a failed goal, and we quit, and we say, that didn't work, and most often we blame ourselves. And what I want you to do is to not do that, because that's really not really believing in yourself and not really believing in the importance of what it is that you're working for. So zooming out, just as the telescope is able to do, right? Zooming out the level of magnification is really important. And we all know that to achieve anything in our lives, consistency is the most important thing. But being able to zoom in and out of the goal consistently is what pivoting is really about. So a really practical way that I've found that works for me is every week, once I've set up what I want, I've set up my goal, I know how it looks and I know what my motivation is, every week I sort of take a zoom out. Okay, I'm not so close to the action. I write down what my intention is. I really want, when I achieve this, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be free, I'm going to be independent, I'm connected with the actions, and I know what's driving it. And then I write down each week 3 actions that I'm going to take towards that goal. Now, when I reach the end of the week, I zoom out and I look at those actions. So it requires a little bit of self-reflection. And I look at those actions and say, were these really in alignment? Is what I'm doing really in alignment with what I want holistically for my life? Is it in alignment with my values? Is it in alignment with who I am being in this process of the goal? And this zoom out, looking at the big picture, for me, I found is invaluable. Being able to reflect, zoom out, and then come back in, and then again, you set up your next 3 action points which are related to that and go forward. Now, it sounds easy, but it's not. And there's one big sort of snag that you're going to come up against when you start zooming in and out, and that is you're going to have to address your fear of failure. You are going to fail. Okay, that's a given. In any circumstance that we're working on, when we're trying something different, trying something new, you're going to fail. So the way I'd like to present the perspective of failure to you is, imagine that you have this goal, it means something to you, and you start taking an action. Now, there are 3 possible outcomes that can happen. You take an action and that action is super successful, and then you go to your next action and then that takes off, and then this goal is really working for you. Or you take the action and you realize, ouch, this isn't really the direction I want to go in, but it will inform you of the direction that you do. So the action taught you something. The third scenario is you take an action and it fails. And let me tell you, when you fail, I consider it like a data center that gives you a lot of information. If you're willing to zoom out and look in, it'll give you a lot of information, way more than if you were actually successful. Most of us say that, wow, when you're successful with the goal, you're really, getting ahead. I say that when you fail, it gives you so much more information. When you go out in that zoom out period at the end of the week and you reflect back, look at that failure, and if you can change the perspective from I'm failing to I'm experimenting, right? Imagine how the perspective of the information might be. So taking a really practical example, you set out on a fitness goal, you want to lose weight, you zoom in, you've got your actions ready, you're working out, you're eating right, and you zoom out at the end of the week, and maybe you failed, maybe the scale hasn't moved, maybe nothing's happened, but it's information, right? When you failed, it'll either give you information about a different kind of path to follow, either there'll be some successes which you can build on, or there might be a complete failure, in which case it informs you about what's important for you. Is there a value that you're not looking at here? Are you following the wrong goal? Failure will inform you about all this really quick. So I would say fail, and consider it like an experiment, because that's what's going to get you to where you want to be with your life. Okay, so the key word I want to remember in this particular segment is pivot through the goal. Keep zooming in, zooming out. Don't quit. That's really, really the critical thing. And with that, we come to the end of this wonderful segment. I've had so much fun talking to you about goals. Just to give you a little bit of a background on me, I'm Erica Souza. I'm a professionally trained coactive life and transformation coach. And I work with a whole bunch of people who are really globally diverse and work with you on your mindset, as we've been doing today, that may be stopping you from achieving a real true life vision. Okay. And I do one-on-one coaching. I also have my group workshops, and I work with you to really identify the path to your extraordinary life. Okay, it's designed on your terms, it's designed for your true life goals, and it's designed for your happiness and your fulfillment. So there's a lot more we can talk about. In case you have questions, you've done the exercises and you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can currently reach out to me on my Instagram handle at Coach by Erica. You can write to me on my email, erica@coachbyerica.com. And I have some extremely exciting things in the works. So do follow me on this handle, because what it's going to do is I'm going to be dropping something pretty amazing very soon, and I'd love to share it with you, pretty much on the lines of what we've been talking about today, but a lot more information about your extraordinary life and living the life that you want to lead, right? Thank you. Bye.
What a fantastic workshop, and moreover, what a practical approach towards this entire goal setting process. Again, a big thank you to our speaker, Erica D'Souza, for taking the time out and giving us a deeper understanding and a deeper look inside her mind. Thank you to the entire YouVak team for putting this together. And lastly, to you, our viewers, for joining us today. This is Souza signing off. Until next time, be safe, take care, and go out there and achieve your goals. Thank you.